The following is a presentation from the MJCast, the internet's premier podcast on all things Michael Jackson.
I'm a Black American. I am proud of who I am.
Together, we can make a change in the world. I want to see you!
I like to take sounds and put them under the microscope.
There's a driving bass, you become the bass.
Let the music write itself.
I don't sing it if I don't mean it.
Welcome to the MJCast, your source of news, discussion, and interviews on the King of Pop.
Hello and welcome to episode 179 of the MJCast. I'm your host for today, Elise Capron, signing in from Studio San Diego, and I am super excited today to have an awesome twosome episode with the one and only Charlie Thomson. Charlie, how are you doing? Happy Sunday.
I'm okay, thank you. How are you doing? And happy Sunday back.
Thank you. I'm great. It's Memorial Day weekend here in the States, so I have a 3-day weekend. I'm very excited. Although having small children right now, I've realized a 3-day weekend just means more craziness watching your children. So the fun is gone.
So what is Memorial Day weekend? Is that like a 3-day weekend?
Yes, yeah. It's a 3-day weekend. It's a memorial to soldiers and anyone who lost their lives in the line of duty. So, paying tribute to those who have gone to battle for our nation, that sort of thing. But also the start of summer and lots of good things and, trying to will in Southern California, we have May gray and June gloom. So just kind of willing that away and hoping to get some sunshine and just really excited about that.
Nice. We have a 3-day weekend here too, but it's nothing to do with Memorial Day. It's just what they call a bank holiday here. So we get about 7 bank holidays a year in the UK, which traditionally was just a day when the banks weren't open for some reason.
So I work a lot with British publishers and I always hear about these bank holidays, but this is interesting because I never really realized they're just kind of floating established holidays. There's no reason for the holiday.
No, they happen at the same time every year. So some of them have a specific reason. So Easter Friday and Easter Monday are always bank holidays, and Christmas Day, Boxing Day, and New Year's Day are always bank holidays. But then we have others that just float around in the year. So we always have 2 May bank holidays and 1 August bank holiday, and I'm not entirely sure what the point of them is.
I like these magical holidays that just drop into your life. I think that's very cool.
Yeah, I'm not complaining. I just don't know what they symbolize or why May and why August.
Yeah. Well, I am just so excited to be here with you. Is this the first time we've hosted just ourselves together, I think?
I think it might be, actually. Yeah, I think it might be.
Excited.
Which is crazy.
It is crazy.
I mean, we've probably met each other more than any of the other MJCast hosts have met each other.
It is true.
But we've never done an episode together.
It is true, yeah. No, I'm very excited. And, today we wanted to get together to go over some of the news in the world of Michael Jackson and the Jackson family, because it's been a minute since we covered the news, and there's been a lot of developments, particularly around the biopic and plenty of other stuff too. So we thought it was time to get on our mics, touch base, talk a little bit about what's going on, get some Charlie Thomson insights, and just kind of see what's up. We're like halfway through the season already, which I can't believe. And there's lots of great stuff to come. But yeah, today we're just going to go through some of the news and developments. So I'm excited to touch base on everything.
Yeah, I mean, how long has it been since there was a news episode? I don't remember the last one.
It's been a while. I think you and Jamin may have been the last one.
Oh, yeah. 10 years on and going strong. Was that the one?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it has been a minute. So, but we're here, excited to talk about stuff. And so with that in mind, let me jump in. So I wanted to start off with, unfortunately, a little bit of sad news, which you guys have probably seen on social media, but wanted to mention here as well. As listeners will know, we very recently released our big interview with Jeff Margolis, really incredible deep dive interview, which Jamin just handled masterfully. And the really sad news is that Jeff has just passed away. We just heard this news a couple of days ago, and it's really pretty heartbreaking. It's an interview that's resonated with a lot of folks. We've heard just wonderful comments on it, mostly in terms of Jeff just being the most, I think, heartfelt guy who had a really wonderful and sincere relationship with Michael Jackson. And some of the insights he brings to that interview are quite wonderful. So we're very sad. I did want to give a little bit of insight into the backstory on our interview, which might be helpful. I don't have any details about his cause of death or anything. But I can say he had been struggling with some health issues, and apparently this was related to what he had going on there, and just his health kind of deteriorating. His health issues were also connected to the reason why this interview was actually in two parts, which happened over several months. And Jamin did an amazing job of pulling those pieces together, so it really felt like one, coherent, bigger interview. But we ended up being his last interview of his life, and it's really a career-spanning interview as well, where we touched on all the amazing stuff he's done in the world of TV. So it really does break our hearts. He's a really, really nice guy, and our hearts go out to his family and friends. It's a very sad loss. If you're curious about Jeff, of course, go check out the episode if you haven't yet. There's a lot of terrific insights, and you will get such a sense of what a wonderful human being he is. So yeah, our condolences again to everyone who knew Jeff. And yeah, Charlie, not sure if you have any comments there or not.
Yes, I think actually it wasn't the first portion of the interview was recorded, I think, before the Paris Olympics. And then the second portion was recorded this year. So there was about a year almost between the two sections. And apparently the reason for the big delay was that Jeff had been very, very ill.
Yes.
He managed to recuperate, came back to us to finish the interview, and then passed away not long later, which is tragic. But I think I said to Jamin the other day, it really underscores the importance of what the MJCast does in gathering the testimonies of all these people that worked with Michael, because we are, years on from Michael's death now, and we are losing people. We're losing these stories all the time. Of course, late last year, we lost Tito, for example, and the MJCast had recorded Tito. And I think building this archive of interviews with people who knew and worked with Michael, getting those stories on record, is a really valuable thing for the MJCast to be doing, because unfortunately the tragic loss of Jeff shows opportunities to record these stories are a source of vanishing. And we got Jeff just in time. And if we hadn't done, who knows if some of those stories may have never come out. It's so great to be part of a project which is documenting all of these stories and these first-hand accounts. Yeah, I'm very happy and humbled that we managed to get that down and put it out there and put it in the archive for these sort of annals of history.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And I will say we went to great lengths to get that interview secured. So I'm not that it, lightens the loss at all, but I am glad that we went to the lengths we did to get that interview finished, because we have a beautiful record now, and that complete interview at least that we have in our archive. And to all your points you make, Charlie, I totally agree. It's part of why I love this project so much as well. And I should say too, actually, if you are interested in Jeff's work and stories, we have it linked in the show notes for that episode, but he does have a book that he published, I think, just last year as well, which, go and support if you feel so inclined and buy a copy. I believe it's called We're Live in 5. And it's all about his whole career in TV, which is really quite remarkable. He worked with everyone who's anyone, including quite a few projects with Michael Jackson. And so moving right along to our next item, and this is one, Charlie, I'm going to have you talk most about. There has been a big development on the Robson Safechuck case in which Jennifer Keller has stepped down from the defense. Charlie, can you speak to this development and any insights you might have?
Well, I'm afraid I'm light on insight. So there was a document registered with the court that said that Jennifer Keller was withdrawing from the case. That's all we know. So Jennifer Keller, for anybody that doesn't know, is a very, very successful and respected defense attorney. She won the Kevin Spacey civil case in the US where he was defending himself against Anthony Ramp. And that was a very difficult case to win because Mr. Spacey had previously issued a statement in which he appeared to acknowledge that Anthony Ramp's allegations were conceivably true because he issued a statement, people may remember, saying, I don't remember this incident, but if it did occur, it would have been inexcusable drunken activity or words to that effect. Anthony Ramp sued Kevin Spacey, and Spacey won. With Jennifer Keller as his attorney. So she is an extremely skilled defense attorney. And in that sense, it seems like a shame that she's leaving the case. But as to why she's leaving the case, I'm afraid I don't know anything. And probably none of us ever will know anything about why that is happening. Obviously, there is attorney-client privilege, so the reasons for her leaving and whether it was her decision or the estate's decision are privileged. And unless one of those chooses to waive privilege and blab, then we'll never know. So I'm sad to see her go, but I don't know why she's going. I don't know whether she's got a better offer or what's happening. So yeah, that's kind of a short news item. Headline, I don't know.
And in everything I've read about this, it also seems like it could be such a range of reasons that we shouldn't really read into it as a negative thing necessarily, right? I mean,
oh no,
it could be strategy. It could just be timing for her. Who knows?
Exactly. She could have been hired onto another case where, she decided that she couldn't do two cases at the same time. It could be personal reasons. It could be that she's retiring. It could be anything. There's absolutely no reason to assume that she's, quit the case in disgust or something like that, or, fled because she thinks she's going to lose or something like that. It could be absolutely anything. It could just be that she had too many cases on her desk and she thought she couldn't give this one her full attention. We likely will never know. But Tom Mesereau and Susan Yu remain part of the defense, and as far as I'm aware, Jonathan Stein-Sapir remains part of the defense. So, and they are the three long-standing members of the team. Jennifer Keller came along a bit later, so she's kind of last in, first out at the moment.
Well, we will see if anything else comes out about this, but in the meantime, full steam ahead on that front. So I would say our main point of discussion probably for this episode is going to be the biopic, because there have been quite a few little bits of news trickling out over the last few days. It's a lot of it's kind of still speculation, but it does, I think, paint a certain picture of what's going on with the biopic. And first of those is that it's looking very likely at this point that we are looking at a release date in 2026. Sorry, everybody who was counting on this October release date. And I think some of us felt this was the direction this was going in quite a while ago anyway, so it's not a huge surprise, but we're pretty sure that's what's going to happen now. So there has been a report that in Lionsgate's Q4 2005 earnings call, the CEO shared an update on the film and said that they will be announcing a definitive release strategy and timing in the next few weeks, but that it is most likely we will move Michael out of the fiscal year, which will impact fiscal 2026 financial results, but will bolster an already strong 2027 slate. What that actually means in terms of the timing is that their fiscal calendar ends on March 31st, 2026. So it pretty much points to the film coming out after April 1st, 2026. So that's where we are on the timing. And yeah, there's been quite a few other things as well well, which I'll just pop these in and then Charlie, you can jump in. There have also been reported an additional 22 days of shooting, which is going to be happening in June. And there has also been a filming crew spotted at 100 North Carrollwood Drive recently. Now, how that is related to the 22 days of shooting, these seem to be separate events. Of course, the 22 days of shooting have not happened yet. Anyway, there's a lot of developments going on, a lot of suggestions of a reapproach to the film. Are these reshoots? Is this completely new material? There's also been comments about, still no confirmation, but comments about the film being split into 2 films, which is something we've chatted about on the show quite a bit. Anyway, there's this group of updates that's, again, like I said, kind of painting a new picture of what the biopic might ultimately be. Charlie, maybe I'll have you jump in first now that I've put all that on the table.
Yes, so this was entirely unsurprising, the announcement that it's going back to the 2026 schedule, and potentially I think they even suggested it could come out in early 2027. So putting it back into that year actually would cross over into 2027. So there's a potential that actually it may not even come out until 2027 under the current plan. Now, we discussed this, I guess, on the episode with, I think maybe on the Paul Black episode. It was a couple of months back we discussed this on the show. Mm-hmm. And we got so much shit from people in the fan community, particularly on Reddit, I think, saying, oh, the MJCast are doom mongers. They don't know what they're talking about. They're repeating speculation from tabloids. They don't know what, it was like, guys, we kind of know what's going on. So we have been vindicated by this Lionsgate announcement. You heard it here first on the MJCast, not to expect it to come out in October 2025. That thing about 22 days of extra shooting, mm-hmm. I believe that was reported by The Hollywood Reporter. And I'm slightly skeptical about that story because the same story also claimed that the film is being split in 2, and the first film will end when Michael releases Off the Wall. And to me, that seems like a completely and utterly unhinged decision, mm-hmm. which cannot possibly be true unless everybody involved in hatching that idea is a total incompetent, because I cannot see how you market to the public a Michael Jackson biopic that finishes before all of his biggest hits get released. Mm-hmm. I don't know why any normal member of the public would go and buy a ticket to that film. Hey guys, do you want to go and see a Michael Jackson biopic? By the way, there's no moonwalking, there's no thriller, there's no nothing. It ends with his very first solo album coming out. I mean, nobody is going to go and see that. That's crazy. So mm-hmm. I have to hope that the Hollywood Reporter have got it all wrong, because it seems just like a totally demented suggestion. If the filming at Carrollwood Drive in Holmby Hills was indeed linked to the biopic, that suggests that the time span the biopic covers has drastically changed, because the previous version of the film ended in the 1990s. So we know that there has been this massive problem with the fact that the Geordie Chandler settlement was apparently not understood by people working on the film, and they didn't realize that they had signed an agreement back in the 90s to not dramatize any of the case. So, and the Geordie Chandler thing was basically the narrative spine of the biopic as it existed. So it began with the police raiding Neverland, and then that was kind of like the now point. And then the film kept switching backwards and forwards between Michael being embroiled in the allegations and how did we get here? And that was the device that was used to keep flashing back to childhood, to thriller, to this, to that. So the loss of the Geordie Chandler stuff basically decimated the existing narrative. And if that Holmby Hills filming was indeed linked to the biopic, then it suggests that in an attempt to salvage the narrative structure of the biopic, there has been a gigantic rewrite which is now incorporating stuff that happened like a decade after the previous incarnation of the film ended.
Mhm.
And to try to cobble that all together at such short notice and under such pressure, it doesn't fill me with confidence that the end product is going to be great, because it's kind of something that's just been slung together at the last minute to paper over some pretty seismic cracks. But we can only wait and see. What I would say is I'm already sick of the biopic, and it might not be coming out until 2027. So this has been something of a disaster all around so far. But what I have heard from people who've been on the set, apparently Jafar is kind of scarily accurate in his portrayal of Michael. So we can only hope that the film is as good as his performance. But, you know, I'm not laying money on it. What do you think?
That was initially probably all of our biggest fears from the get-go, is not Jafar himself, but could anyone, Jafar or otherwise, hold a candle at all to Michael Jackson? Like, who do you ever, I mean, those were the discussions we had years ago. Like, who could ever play Michael Jackson, right? So I think they did, theoretically, we hope, it sounds like, find maybe like the one person who could really play Michael Jackson, and that's fantastic. And maybe they nailed that element, but everything else at this point, unfortunately, does kind of seem to be a mess. And all of this, you know, information too really seems to just be so all over the place. I mean, the Carolwood filming, if that's really a thing, I mean, who really knows? That's kind of speculation. But I mean, the filming was seen, but we don't truly know how that's connected. But if that is for the biopic, how is that related to it becoming maybe also a 2-part film? That wouldn't make sense for them to be filming right now. I mean, I guess maybe it could be like a flash forward or something. I think you might be right, Charlie, though, about that Hollywood Reporter article being kind of baseless. It does have a lot of other factual errors in it. For example, it mentions that the new film will end with Jackson leaving the Jackson 5 after the release of his first solo album, Off the Wall. There was a lot of time in between those things happening. I mean, it's just the facts aren't really lining up here. So there's a lot of guesswork to be done. But in any case, it's going to be a while. Guys, we have to keep crossing our fingers. I'm sure lots of news will keep dribbling out about this. I'm also concerned with how scattered all of these developments have been. And it's very hard for me to see how they can pull it together, as you've said, after this big disaster and having to essentially, what it sounds like, create a new film. You know, it's really unfortunate, but we'll see.
Yeah, and you've got the other issue, which is, for a lot of people, if the film skirts the issue of the allegations, then it's going to be dismissed as a whitewash, and a lot of fans are going to be upset because it doesn't do what they wanted it to do. So it's kind of just like a shit sandwich at the moment. But I mean, it's possible they will address it by maybe dramatizing some of the trial. So you get rid of the Geordie Chandler incident in particular, and then build part of the news story around the trial, I guess. But I don't even know if Lionsgate is going to go for that. Are they going to go for that? I don't know. They might have just been completely spooked, and we could get a film with just no reference to the allegations at all. And that is going to be a critical disaster. Although, of course, you could argue that the critics are just going to shit all over this film, even if it's Citizen Kane. They're just going to attack it. So, but yeah, there is a lot to be, legitimately concerned about.
I agree. Hopefully, we'll hear more, and hopefully, I would like a little bit of a more official update, which we'll get to in just a moment. The estate has sent an official update, which is a non-update, as you can guess. But before we touch on that, I should say, also related to the biopic, there is a trickle effect of everything else being delayed somehow. So again, the estate statement, I'll read parts of that in just a moment, but we have also seen the Jacksons who have mentioned they're working on a documentary series. We haven't heard anything about that, seen anything about that. Of course, Tito's passing, some stuff like that. There's been a lot going on, but still, that seems to be on hold. And now Janet Jackson has told the press that she's decided to pause any upcoming projects featuring her music because of the biopic. So we have this domino effect of just everything in the whole world of Michael Jackson being put on hold. What's going on here? Is the estate just telling everyone nothing can happen until we see this film? Why would Janet Jackson listen to that? I don't have the answer here, but it's quite interesting to see basically all of the Jackson family news and developments come to a crashing halt because of this film's delay. Charlie, what do you think there?
Well, I'm a bit skeptical about the Janet thing because it's no secret that there's no love lost between Janet and the estate. So the idea that she would be deferring to the estate just doesn't ring true to me. I mean, I don't know what projects it is that she's claiming she's put on hold until the MJ biopic comes out, but I really cannot see any genuine link between the two and why that would even make any sense. And then you had this peculiar statement that came out from the estate saying, we desperately want to make documentaries about the Dangerous and History albums, but we can't because there's a biopic. And it's just like, what are you talking about? That does not make any sense at all. And actually, it kind of seems to betray a sort of craziness on behalf of the estate, because what you saw with the Queen biopic, for example, even though it was garbage, it was massively, massively successful, and it triggered for a couple of years a huge explosion in interest in Queen, including from much younger people who maybe weren't even alive when Queen were at their peak and went to see the film and became massive Queen fans. And there was such a huge demand for anything Queen related. So what would make sense business-wise for the estate right now would be to be working on things like the Dangerous and History documentaries and then having them ready to go so that when this biopic explodes, they have this stuff ready to release at the time when there's going to be maximum interest in Michael, probably the biggest interest in Michael since 2009, and going, right, okay, everybody wants Michael stuff right now. Let's give it to them. Guess what? We've got a Dangerous documentary. Guess what? We've got a History documentary. But instead, they're sending out kind of tetchy statements, actually. I don't know if you saw the email that was sent to a fan from the estate, which said something like, yeah, we might get round to doing some other stuff, but we're making a biopic at the moment. Maybe you've noticed. Something like that. It was kind of tetchy, right? And it's like, what are you talking about? You should have all this stuff ready to go. Mm-hmm. You should have all the videos in HD ready to go. You should have everything ready to go, because once this biopic hits, that's going to be the explosion. So saying, oh, we'd love to make a documentary about history, but we can't because there's a biopic. What are you talking about? That does not make any sense at all. And equally, the Janet thing makes no sense. None of this makes any sense on any level, really. Mm-hmm. I just find the whole thing perplexing.
Yeah. So to your point, Charlie, the official email, which I'm sure many of our listeners got from the MJ Online team, I'll just read this one little section of it. It reads, "We also appreciate that the delays in the release of the biopic have the added impact of delaying the projects the estate has planned, including well-deserved documentaries for both Dangerous and History and other projects as well. While we appreciate and understand the additional disappointment that this causes for us all, we have confirmed that the estate looks forward to being in a position They look forward to being in a position to restart its efforts with respect to all of the projects that are planned to follow the release of the biopic." Yeah. And Charlie, you're exactly right. I mean, they should be laying the groundwork because they know, it is, like you said, it's what we saw with the Queen film. Like, there's going to be a whole new wave of fans who are hungry for content, good content, right? Not outdated, bad resolution stuff they have to find on wherever. This is the moment. And to suggest that they are not even developing these projects is baffling. It's quite atrocious. It's a huge, huge mistake.
Yeah. That's funny. We look forward to being in a position, because the estate has got no money. Of course, they're poor. They've only generated like $3 billion since Michael died or something, so they're not in a position at the moment to be making a biopic and having a camera crew film some interviews at the same time. It's impossible.
Yeah. They also promise, rest assured that once the movie studio does provide information and or assets, we will be sharing that information and or assets with you. Will you really?
Yes, I forgot about that. So yeah, that is not going to improve relations between the estate and Lionsgate at all.
Mm-hmm.
I did notice that segment of the statement. I'd forgotten about that until you just read it. But yeah, to kind of suggest that the estate is kind of at the mercy of if the movie studio get their arse in gear, then maybe we can do something. It's like, oh my God, what are you doing? Why would you put that in the public domain?
Yeah.
It's crackers.
Yeah.
That is going to piss the movie studio off so much. That it will have pissed them off so much when they saw that, because, of course, if the stories we read are to be believed, it is the estate's fault that the biopic has all gone tits up, because the estate didn't tell the movie studio that the Geordie Chandler settlement included this clause about non-dramatization.
Mm-hmm.
So for the estate to balls up the biopic and then send tetchy emails to the fan community suggesting that all the delays are the fault of the movie company, I was absolutely staggered when I read that. That is going to piss people off on the movie side, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can't imagine the relationship right now between Lionsgate and the estate is too great anyway. So
yeah.
Yeah. But, I would be, I have to talk for a moment about the MJ online team and their announcements they send out. If any of you don't get these very occasional emails, you can email them and they'll add you to this list so you can get these emails as well. But I mean, how often they maybe send these emails out once every 6 months. They're very infrequent, seem inspired by really just random things and never include any actual information about anything at all. So I would love to see why can they not just also simply revamp the way they handle these fan communications into newsletters that are at least semi-regular and, intelligently written and give us even a smidge of actual information. It's deeply frustrating, but that's nothing new. We know how I feel about that. And also, speaking of the estate, they have announced their annual Michael Jackson birthday event at MJ1 in Las Vegas. So this is kind of another situation where there's basically very little information. They will be, once again, this is from their first announcement, they will be once again hosting their annual celebration commemorating Michael's birthday, gather together with other Michael Jackson fans for a celebration in Las Vegas, and plan to spend the entire day there to take part in all of the planned activities, starting with the annual brunch and going through attending the performance of Michael Jackson 1 in the evening. That's all we know. I think this event has gotten fairly repetitive the last few years. It seems to kind of be the same event over and over. I know last year in particular was not great, although I have not actually attended the Vegas events myself ever, even though I'm pretty close. I'll need to get there eventually just to see what it's all about. But yeah, no details yet. I'm sure we'll hear more eventually, or not, maybe, I don't know. But but people will still show up, and hey, MJ1 is a lot of fun to see. So there's that.
Well, last year, there were no details at all until fans got there. Mm-hmm. And I was going to be there. I was supposed to be in America on vacation at the time. And the only reason I wasn't was because of a family situation that cropped up where I had to cancel my whole trip. But I was going to go to the birthday event last year for the first time ever. And I was convinced at the time that it was going to be some kind of biopic preview, which was why I decided to go. Needless to say, that wasn't the case, and I think we now know why. And actually, what happened was Karen Langford got on stage, and pretty much the first thing she said was, by the way, there's going to be no news about the biopic today. And the fans were like, oh, for fuck's sakes. Yes. And it actually just turned out to be Karen on stage interviewing Rich and Tone, the choreographers of the MJ musical, which was the exact same thing that it was the year before. And I know that there was a lot of discontent from the fans that went, because they felt like the whole thing was a total waste of time, especially, of course, the ones that had been there the year before and felt like they were living through Groundhog Day. So, I don't know, I wouldn't be surprised if there's not much take-up this year, because I'm guessing it's pretty much the same people that go every year. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not something that people are flying in from Sweden for, do you know what I mean? As a general rule. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm not even slightly intrigued at the moment. I mean, yeah. I'm intrigued to see if, whether the fans stage a rebellion if it turns out to be Rich and Tone again. But yeah, kind of a lame duck, I'm assuming, this year. Let's put it this way. Don't put money on it being a biopic preview.
Yeah. And in your view, Charlie, just because you've been to the event, which again, I need to get there at some point. I'm so close.
No, I've never been.
I'm embarrassed that I haven't been there. Oh, you haven't actually been? Okay.
No, never.
You were supposed to go last year.
I was supposed to go last year, yeah.
Got it. But still, even without having actually gotten there, in your view, something like this, do you feel like they shouldn't be hosting this every single year if they can't have new, exciting stuff they're releasing and guests they're bringing in? Should it be the kind of thing they're only doing every few years? Or do you feel like it's just kind of an obligation of the estate to do? I mean, they have the show. Maybe they just kind of have to. Maybe it'd be weird if they didn't. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts around that? Like, should they change their strategy with this kind of event? Or do you think there's like a consistent group of people who's going to show up and make it worthwhile no matter what?
I guess it acts every year as a free marketing opportunity for the show. Mm-hmm. But I do feel that if they are going to do it every year, then they should be making more of an effort to book better guests. I mean, this is not difficult. Michael Jackson worked over the years with so many people. There is no excuse for having Rich and Tone as the guests 2 years in a row. Mm-hmm. Well, you couldn't book Brad Sundberg, you couldn't book Brad Buxer, you couldn't book Michael Prince, you couldn't book Vince Patterson. I mean, there's so many people out there that worked with Michael over the years who I'm sure would be happy to go and do it. And it just seems like there's no imagination or creativity going in. It's the same mindset that says, I can't make a biopic and a dangerous documentary at the same time. It's this sort of total lack of creativity or enthusiasm for anything, really, that just sort of emanates from the estate at times. And you take something like the musical was fantastic. The musical was the first thing they've ever done that I have genuinely thought was a fantastic piece of work. But it does seem to be kind of an anomaly. Mm-hmm. And generally, you just get this kind of lack of ambition from almost everything that they do. And I just don't understand it. I just don't understand how a multi-billion-dollar estate for the most successful artist in history ends up with Rich and Tone 2 years in a row and a bunch of pissed off fans. Kingvention is run on a shoestring by fans and is more interesting. And that should not be the case when they're in competition with a multi-billion-dollar estate, mm-hmm. working out of a Cirque du Soleil theater in Las Vegas.
Well, and this is why I think it's so important that folks like Brad Sundberg and, us at the MJCast and other content creators out there, that we keep doing what we're doing because the estate is not doing it. Why, if they don't want to do the work themselves, there are so many great MJ related interviewers out there these days. Bring somebody in to run the interviews if you don't want to do it yourselves. It seems like everything's built in already to this fan community to make these things very simple. They don't even have to exert any of their own resources really to make this happen.
No, absolutely. And it would not be expensive. Even if they were bringing in Brad Buxer and Brad Sundberg, or they could bring Brad Buxer, Brad Sundberg, and Michael Prince, it would cost them next to nothing. Mm-hmm. To put that together would cost next to nothing. The theater is empty anyway. It's the home of the MJ1 residency. They're not having to book it out because it's already theirs. It's just, it really wouldn't cost anything. So there's no excuse for it that I can see. It just seems to be, it's just ridiculous. And like a lot of the things that they do, it's just ridiculous. You know, to have the resources that they have at their disposal and put together something so kind of lazy last year is just not justifiable. Yeah, they just need to get their act together, really.
Yeah, I do know there is a group of fans who are very loyal to these events and go every single year, no matter what. And that's great and fine. I completely understand that. There are certain events I do every year, you know, just because I'm loyal to those events as well. But I have to imagine it's really just, you know, because they want to see their other MJ fan friends. It's certainly not about the content that the estate is bringing, but it is really a shame because I feel like they could establish something that really would be a great little mini fan convention every year. And it certainly is not that at the moment. So, you know, all that said, I continue to wish MJ1, you know, every success. I'm glad it's done as well as it has. And, you know, it just seems like they could throw a little bit more into the mix and make people really happy. And instead they just continued to do nothing and the same events over and over again. Okay, so now we'll move on from being negative about the estate. Sorry, guys, but it's the truth. I would love to be positive. I want a reason to be positive, I promise. Maybe next episode. And another kind of quick news item, but one that's important to mention. This, again, we don't know too much about. There's a lot of speculation here, but Rabbi Shmuley, well known within the fan community, a lot of controversy around him. He has, I will quote this MJ Vibe article, once again found himself at the center of controversy following his recent involvement in a British documentary about Michael Jackson. He reportedly sat for 7 hours of filming for the production, which he claims will be a defense of Michael Jackson amid ongoing debates about the icon's legacy and personal life. So there has been a big outcry among fans, and Rabbi Shmuley has kind of been the center of a lot of controversy in terms of a lot of things he said about Michael Jackson, the friendship he sort of, you know, betrayed in terms of how he's spoken about Michael Jackson. But otherwise, we don't know too much about what this really is. Frankly, it is a British documentary. I mean, the British media has never been too nice to Michael, but we don't know really anything otherwise. So I'll pass that over to you, Charlie, in case you have some comments on this. I don't know if there's much more to say, but...
Well, what we know is that there are numerous Michael Jackson documentaries in the works all of a sudden. I'm not sure what's triggered this explosion, but Channel 4 is making a documentary about Michael's trial. Netflix is making a documentary about Michael's trial. And the BBC is making what it's calling a sort of all-encompassing docu-series about Michael's life. Who knows which of these is the one that Rabbi Shmuley has sat for, or whether there's a fourth out there gestating that we don't know about. I never feel positive when I hear that anyone is making a documentary about Michael, because generally they understand that the only way to sell it is to sell it as shocking and damning, because Michael's story has been told umpteen times over the last 50 years, and they have to make it sensational. They have to make it sensational in order to sell it and in order to get anybody to watch it. Nobody's really interested in the whole rags to riches, Tito broke the guitar string story anymore. Everybody feels like they know the story of Michael Jackson and they're looking for some kind of new revelation or deeper understanding. So what you always get with these productions is just venom and spite and half-truths, and often very, very poor research. So I know people who have been approached for the Netflix documentary. And what Netflix has said to those people who've been approached is, we're going to be very even-handed and we're going to tell both sides. Well, telling both sides is not the same as being accurate. So telling both sides is something that shit journalists do, right? And I was taught this at journalism school. This is what they teach you on pretty much day one of journalism school. Objectivity and impartiality are not the same thing as balance. This is how a balanced person reports the weather. One person said it was sunny today, and another person said it was raining. That's a balanced report on the weather. What a journalist does, who is good at their job, is goes outside and checks whether it's sunny or whether it's raining. So when you get an email from a TV production company that says, we're going to be very fair, we're going to tell both sides, well, I'm not interested in whether you're going to tell both sides. I'm interested in whether you're going to tell the story accurately. Mm-hmm. You see this with, so for example, there was a documentary a few years ago now, I think it was the one called The Jury Speaks, but I'm not entirely sure, where they interviewed Ron Zonen, the prosecutor from the 2005 trial. Now, Ron Zonen in that documentary made some very outlandish claims. And one of the things that he said was, our case at trial was that Michael Jackson was drugging children with Versed and then molesting them. That was not the prosecution's case at trial. They never said any such thing. You can read the transcript from the beginning to the end. They did not assert that Michael Jackson was doing that on any occasion. It was not part of the charges. It was not part of their case. That made it into The Jury Speaks. That's what happens when you have shit journalists who are operating on a system of balance. It's okay because we included the prosecution and we included the defense. Yes, but you included the prosecution talking shit. You included an elderly man making false statements because he's got a faulty memory. So I never trust these people. I never trust them. I never trust any documentary maker, even if I sit down opposite them and they tell me very convincingly that they're going to do a very good job and they're going to be very honest and even-handed. I never trust them. I think Rabbi Shmuley is a fool to trust them. He may have sat down for 7 hours and believe that he has recorded an interview which is serving as a defense for Michael. I have no idea why he would believe that it's going to come out the other end of the editing process in that format. I would just strongly advise anybody that's contacted by any of these documentary crews, do not talk to them. Do not sit down in front of their camera. It's not worth it. It's not worth the risk. I think Shmuley is silly to have done what he's done.
Yeah, I agree. And, I have to say, too, bouncing back to the biopic for a second, I mean, I think this wave of projects we're seeing and hearing about has to be directly related to groups trying to take advantage of the huge surge in interest that's going to come with the biopic. And all of these things are now, of course, like basically ahead of the biopic. Which
yes, you're right. I hadn't thought of that. Yes, that clearly is why they've all been commissioned. You're right.
But they're all kind of missing their moment because there's no biopic.
They've got more savvy than the estate, but actually the incompetence of the estate has now left them all high and dry with documentaries that with no groundswell of interest.
Yeah, maybe as a plus in certain ways. I don't know, but no, I totally agree with you, Charlie, and I think our best aim as fans is to, ignore the clutter and try to focus on the real stories and the real truth and projects we can believe in and actually have some faith in. So on that front, Todd Jackson, we are thinking of you and excited about what you are doing. So we continue to cheer you on. So now we'll move on to a few quick but positive, I would say, news items to go through. And then we actually have one bigger topic for discussion at the end. But just to touch on a few other interesting things that have happened lately. This is on YouTube. BET has just released a high-definition clip of Michael Jackson's 2003 BET Awards appearance with James Brown. Now, actually, I want to jump right to you, Charlie, right now, because you, I know, are such a big James Brown fan. Would love your take on this clip, and then I'll chime in with a few thoughts.
Well, I've always loved this clip. The context in which it happened, of course, was that it followed two really negative things. It followed the baby dangling and then Martin Bashir's living with Michael Jackson. For Michael to appear on the BET Awards was fantastic. The reception he got was tremendous. I mean, people were literally jumping out of their chairs. in disbelief. They were crying at the very sight of Michael. So it was a really positive appearance after 6 months of real negativity and drama. And of course, to see Michael presenting an award to somebody else rather than showing up to receive one was an oddity and kind of humbled him, I guess, in the public opinion. And yeah, I am a huge James Brown fan, and to see them on stage together was great. And to see Michael, dancing with Mr. Brown and his band was great. Years later, in 2009, actually, the day before the This Is It announcement at the O2, I was in a hotel in Camden in London with two of Mr. Brown's former band members, his former band leader, Holly Farris, and his former saxophonist, Jeff Watkins. And we were sat having a coffee in the bar at, I think it was called the K West Hotel. I think that's right. In Swiss Cottage. Yes, it was. It was the K West Hotel in Swiss Cottage. And I said to them, "Oh, did you know Michael's in town? He's going to be announcing the concerts tomorrow at the O2." And they were both very excited. And then they said, "Oh, do you know when the BET Awards happened?" They didn't know that Michael was going to be there. Nobody in the band knew that Michael was going to be there. Nobody, James Brown, nobody. And they had actually rehearsed with somebody else presenting the award. And I think that was in part because the organizers knew Michael was kind of flaky and there was always a chance he just wouldn't show up. So when he walks out, everybody on the stage is completely shocked. And in this HD clip, you can actually see that. You can see the faces of the band members and the percussionist, whose name is escaping me at the moment. You can actually see him kind of leaning forward over his conga drums, like, is that Michael Jackson? It's crazy. And it's just so, it's only a little clip, but I do love that clip, and it's nice to see it in good quality, having only had it in potato quality for like the last 15 years or so. I'm pleased to see that they've uploaded it, but I wish they would have uploaded the entire James Brown performance actually with that on the end as it aired, because it was a great performance as well.
Yeah, you're totally right. It is only about a 3-minute clip. But if for somehow you've missed this clip in your life, please, we'll have it linked on the show notes. Please watch this clip because it is in great quality. And Charlie, as you note, this is at this very, very tumultuous, difficult time of Michael Jackson's life. It is the most beautiful, heartening moment. It will just give you hope. It will make you cry. It is such a great moment. Michael doing the James Brown dance, looking so happy, feeling just conveying that he's like with his people. He seems so comfortable and happy. And I think in these times when, especially with, I think everything we do at the MJCast, as wonderful as much as I love everything we do, it also can become very depressing because, we do a lot of deep digging into everything that was happening towards the end of his life and through the allegations. And it can be tough sometimes, right? There's a lot of darkness there. And this is a moment of light in that darkness. So please do yourself a favor and watch this. It's really fun. I watched this newly released version multiple times. It's totally worth 3 minutes of your time. So check that out. And just such great energy and chemistry on everyone. But I am going to watch it again, actually, to look at the musicians. I had not paid that much attention to that. So that is very cool. In a next little quick announcement, this will be very great news for European fans. 3T has just announced that they're going to be touring through Europe this summer. So I've only seen 3 dates listed. I don't know if more has been announced, but right now it's July 3rd, Casablanca, July 6th, Tavernet, and July 19th, Toulouse. So if you are nearby those places, look up 3T online. You can find out about those shows. Charlie, are you going to be able to get to any of those? I imagine they're a bit far for you.
They are a bit far, yeah. Unfortunately, if they were playing London, I would go for sure, or somewhere in the UK, but France is a bit extravagant at the moment. But yeah, it's nice to see them performing together. I think that might be is it the first time since the pandemic? I'm not quite sure. Yeah, I think the last time they performed as a trio might have been pre-pandemic.
I think you are probably right.
I remember TJ came and did a solo show in about 2022 at Bush Hall in London, which I couldn't go to because I had tickets to a West End show, which had been delayed about 7 times because of COVID, and turned out to be shit as well. But anyway, so yeah, I missed TJ's solo gig, but I'm pretty sure they've not performed as a trio since the pandemic, and they are big on mainland Europe, particularly around France and Italy. So
Right.
it's nice to see them getting together and performing.
Yeah, I think that's kind of their main fan hub, really. Yeah. No, it's great. If you can get there, just go see them, cheer them on. We're very excited about that. Hopefully for more. I'd love to see them come through the US. Guys, come on. You all live here. Let's do it. So next up is just a brief mention regarding The Wiz. There's 2 items here. Number 1, it's being released in 4K on Blu-ray. I think that's coming up in the next couple of weeks, which is really exciting. And number 2, it has actually been re-released in movie theaters. This just happened a few days ago, last week, I suppose. It was on May 18th. It was in theaters around the country in the US. I don't know, Charlie, did it come to the UK at all? I don't know if it was beyond the US.
I don't believe it did.
Okay.
If it did, it went over my head.
Okay. Well, that is okay if it did. But I do know a lot of fans who went to see it in the theaters. I had every intention of going. I really wanted to, but most of you know I have 2 very small children right now, and it just didn't quite happen. I could not abandon my husband with the 2 kids at that particular moment. So I did not get to see it, which I'm kicking myself. But everyone I know who went to see it had only good things to say. For many people who, were born after, whenever, who are now, even if you're in your 40s now, like none of us got to see it in the theater, right? So for many, many people, it's their first time seeing it on a big screen, which is pretty cool. And just consistently, I've seen comments that everyone just says that Michael just lights up the screen, and it's so incredible to see him in that role in this, in theaters, and it's amazing. So I'm super bummed I didn't get to see it, but hopefully can catch the 4K edition when it is released on DVD. So very excited about that. And just nice to see I know, so in the US, the Wiz has been traveling around as the Broadway run as well, has been doing the rounds again. I also did not get to see that. It came through San Diego at kind of a bad time when I couldn't go see it. But there just seems to be some renewed interest in this particular property lately, which is fantastic. I think it's a wonderful project. So have you seen I assume you've seen the stage production, Charlie? You go to a lot of theater.
No, it's not really a big thing here in the UK. I think it's more of a big thing in the African American community. But I know that the cast for the recent tour included the guy from Strange Loop, Carl Freeman. And I saw him in A Strange Loop a while back, and he was brilliant. So I'm sure that he was brilliant in the recent stage version as well. I would like to see it as a stage production because the film I'm not a fan of. I would love to be a fan of the film, but I'm just not, and I can't make myself be. I like the songs. Whenever there's not a song happening, I'm aggrieved. And also, that even sometimes when there is a song happening, I'm slightly aggrieved. That whole section that goes on for about 7 hours where they're going, I wouldn't be seen in green, I wouldn't be seen dead in red, and all that shit, just over and over again, walking around in a circle. It's like, oh, please release me. But so I don't love the film. And whether I invest in the 4K Blu-ray type effort will depend in large part, I think, on what the special features are and whether there's anything there that's going to entice me. I have seen the film on the big screen.
Oh, you have? Okay.
But not in 4K. I saw an original print as part of a series at the BFI called Black Star, which was a series of screenings of films with which sort of starred huge black stars, basically. That was why it was called Black Star. So The Wiz was part of that program, and I went to see it on the big screen. And even on the big screen, I'm afraid I couldn't love it. So,
Well, Charlie, what are we going to do?
you know, if when Michael's singing, you can't win. Okay, great. And when they're doing, he's on down the road.
Yeah.
Okay, can you feel a brand new day? Great. I wouldn't be seeing green. Say whatever the fuck that is. That is very patience testing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just don't love the film. I'm sorry. I shall
okay.
batten down the
You're allowed
hatches
to
and
not
await
love it.
the.
I haven't seen it in a really long time.
Yeah. Well, lucky you.
Yeah, I've not seen it in several years. So that's why I really did want to see it on the big screen. But I'm hoping to watch the 4K version, and then I will come back and let you know what I think after not having seen it for a while. So, but I'm going to anticipate that I love every minute and that I don't agree with you.
Well, okay.
No. I value your opinion. But
Likewise.
but I would say just overall, it was nice seeing the reception from the fan community and a lot of, happy memories made there just seeing Michael on the big screen too. So those of you who got to see it, awesome. Share more of your thoughts with us if you haven't already. So moving on, a couple other brief items. So a little bit of sad news that George Wendt has passed away, most famous for Cheers, but of course we all know him as the dad in the black or white video. But he's been, of course, an icon. He's been in many, many other things as well. And so just a sad loss for the community. Another icon gone, like with Jeff Margolis. And to your point earlier, Charlie, we keep losing people, and it's too bad. It's those memories and stories gone. So thank you, George, for your work and those great moments in black or white.
And Cheers.
And Cheers, yes. And was he in Frasier at all?
I think there was a guest. Yeah, there was an episode where Frasier went back to Boston and took his family with him for some kind of reunion, and he was in that.
Okay. Okay. And then next up is that Brad Sundberg, who has kind of done a podcast series like off and on, but I think it's been quite a while. He has just dropped an episode, which I, unfortunately, because it literally just was released, I have not listened to it yet. We just added it in last minute here. But he has released a conversation with Hayden Rose, who was an animal trainer, and he worked really closely with the animals at Neverland Valley Ranch. So I think it's primarily a conversation about their shared experiences at the ranch. So I know I always love Brad's chats with folks. They always have so many great stories and really look, I think, at the human side of who Michael was and what he was doing. So I look forward to listening to that, and definitely check it out and check out Brad's other, I think most of them are actually on YouTube with video and everything. So not just an audio podcast, but check those out if you haven't heard them, and also get to Brad's events if you haven't been to those. So Charlie, I don't know if you got to listen to this yet.
I did not, no, so I can't comment on the interview, but I endorse your comments about Brad's events.
Yes, yeah. So definitely go look at that. And moving right along, I think we just have one other thing, and then we'll get into one of our bigger conversation topics. So on a final quick news note, LaToya Jackson is going to be doing an event in LA for the LA fan community friends on June 6th and June 7th. It's 2 nights. She's going to be speaking and sharing stories. It's called An Evening with LaToya Jackson at the Catalina Jazz Club. There is a meet and greet available, I should add, and we'll have the link on the show notes as well if you want to check that out. It sounds fun, and I know a lot of friends who are going, so you can buy tickets and meet and greet passes as well on their website. Have you been to a LaToya event before, Charlie?
I've not, no, but I find her very interesting in many ways, and would definitely be intrigued to see LaToya.
Yes.
And to meet LaToya. I mean, wow, that would be an experience.
Yeah.
And of course, we still await her appearance on the MJCast.
Yes, that is true. So if you go, tell her to come on the show.
Yes.
Listeners, please. No, it should be great fun. I know that our mutual friend Konstantinos has seen her speak before and is a big fan of going to her events. So check it out. And then Then I would like to move to kind of our final, but also maybe most substantive topic that, Charlie, you have just gone to Kingvention. So we want to hear all about that. I also will comment a little bit on the LA event that happened last fall that I don't think I've talked about on the show yet. But this just happened in London. So Charlie, take it away. Tell us about everything you did there.
Sure. So it was my first time ever at Kingvention. It was held yesterday, as we're recording, at Conway Hall in Holborn in London, which is a very old and prestigious venue. It's actually the headquarters of the Ethical Society, and lots of literary events are held there. The last time I was there, it was for an event with Michael Connelly, the crime novelist. So it's my first time ever. It was a busy day. I must say, it was very well attended. Pretty much every single seat was booked out. Hundreds of people there. The proceedings kicked off with a great performance from the Brentwood Imperial Youth Band from Essex. And I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting maybe 4 or 5 people to be on the stage, right? They started filing in to the hall to appear on the stage, and they just didn't stop. It was like that scene where in that Christmas movie where all the postal workers are dragging in the sacks full of letters to Santa. It was ridiculous. There must have been about 60 people in this band. They just about fit on the stage, and there were other people that were kind of posted up in the balcony, and they performed a huge brass-heavy big band medley of songs from the Bad album. So they did Bad, The Way You Make Me Feel, I Just Can't Stop Loving You, and Man in the Mirror. And there was a great little kid who walked down the center aisle playing the lead vocal to Man in the Mirror on his saxophone, and then whipped out a pair of aviators and moonwalked across the front of the hall. I mean, that whole performance was just great, and they got a standing ovation. And then we launched into the keynote talk. So there are lots of events going on at Kingvention, I should say, but some of them are kind of off in side rooms and things like that. So I only went to the 3 main talks. The first guest was Dave Way. So Dave Way was part of Teddy Riley's crew, who were brought to California from New York in either late 1990 or early 1991 to work on the Dangerous album. I should say Dave was kind of sketchy on dates. And he was talking all about working with Teddy on this collection of songs that they came and presented to Michael, and how Michael worked through those songs, selecting the ones he liked and didn't like, and how he developed them, and they ended up on the album. So that was an interesting talk by him. The second guest was Bill Nation, who was one of Michael's photographers. So he started off as an assistant to John Exley, who was one of Michael's photographers, and he was an ex-photojournalist who was hired by John Exley to actually shoot the shooting of Michael's photo shoots, if that's not too kind of meta. So he would be documenting John Exley's work, shooting Michael in a kind of a reportage style. But over time, he ended up taking over some of the direct photography duties. So he was the photographer on the Stranger in Moscow video shoot, the Y video shoot with 3T, the Blood on the Dance Floor video shoot. He was Michael's photographer for both rehearsals and the performance of the Royal Brunei concert in 1996. He was Michael's photographer on the 96 trip to South Africa to meet Nelson Mandela. And so he was just talking through his experiences of being with Michael and how he would go about shooting Michael. And what we also got was a glimpse of some never-before-seen pictures of him on a photo shoot that's never seen the light of day with him and Michael. We also got some very interesting footage from the history tour. So Bill was a photographer on the history tour, and he was kind of stood in front of the stage, like right in front of where the fans on the barrier would have been, with his stills camera. But what he was also doing was, for reasons that weren't fully explained, he was alternating between stills and filming. So he had one movie camera and one stills camera at the same time, one on each shoulder. And he had this footage of him filming Michael on stage, but then every now and then the camera just drops down and is facing the floor while he's taking stills. And so we got to watch a Billie Jean performance through the eyes of Bill Nation right in front of the stage, which was interesting.
That's fascinating.
And then we got Elise Sankey. So for anyone that doesn't know who Elise Sankey is, Elise, her first experience with Michael was as a dancer on the Smooth Criminal video. She was a close ally of both Vince Patterson and Kenny Ortega, so she then crops up repeatedly through Michael's career at key events like the MTV 10th anniversary performance, the Brit Awards performance 1996, and United We Stand 2001. The last time she worked with Michael was as an associate producer of the This Is It concerts. So we got to hear about all of her various experiences working for Michael, including her first-hand experience of the Jarvis Cocker stage invasion at the Brits. One thing that was not discussed in any detail at all, really, was the dark side of the This Is It rehearsals. I think that was because for Elise, it is a very difficult subject to discuss. So Pez Jax is the host of the convention and conducts all the onstage interviews. And what he did was he took a moment towards the end of the interview to thank Elise for her efforts to intervene in Michael's failing health in his final days and to try to get him help, which of course we know about through the AEG proceedings and the Conrad Murray trial. And that was as much of a discussion as we got of that particular topic. But when Pez did that, when he thanked her for her attempts to save Michael's life, she received a very long round of applause, and she started crying. So it was a touching moment. So yeah, those were the 3 onstage interviews. I did manage to talk to Dave Way and Bill Nation in the merch room. The merch room was boiling hot. I mean, it was a small room and it was constantly packed with people. But Bill Nation was in there signing prints of his photos if people wanted them. I did manage to speak to both of them, but I spent most of my time talking to Dave Way, telling him how excited I was for the Broadway Barbara album that he's currently producing, rather than talking about Michael. So yeah, it was a good day. I was approached by a number of fans who were expressing their enthusiasm for the MJCast. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but I do remember Dom, Giorgio, and a lady called Laura, who came up to me in the merch room the first time I went in there. And the first time I went in there, it was like a sauna. There were like 50 people in this tiny room, and I just had to get out. And just as I was leaving, because I thought I was going to pass out, this lady called Laura came up to me and said, "Oh, I'm such a big fan of the MJCast." And I said hi to her. I said, "I've got to get out of this room because I'm boiling hot, but I'll see you in the convention hall." And then I didn't. I never saw her again for the rest of the day. So sorry, Laura. But
she disappeared into a puddle of sweat.
Yeah. But yeah, it was nice to
Sorry,
meet
Laura.
so many fans who were, expressing enthusiasm for the MJCast. So that was really
that's
nice.
Great. That is really, really nice.
Oh, and hi, Welly, as well. I've never been to Kingvention before. And the reason I went is because my friend Welly, who is from Switzerland and hosts MJ events in Switzerland, contacted me a couple of months ago to say, "I'm coming to London for Kingvention. Are you going?" And I said, "If you're going, I'll go." So thanks, Welly, because I'm a convert now. So I think I'll probably go again.
That's awesome. I wanted to comment on what you said about Elise Sankey. And, at an event like this, I think I'm really, really glad to hear that Pez did that. And I'm sure it's a very difficult balance to strike at this kind of event to... You got to kind of keep things light and positive. I think for the most part, it's hard going into these darker topics, unless it's like some very specific kind of format with maybe certain people attending. I don't know. It's a tough place to go into. The inclination, I think, is to celebrate, right? And so I kind of get the challenge of going there, but I'm glad he said that at least, and that's good to hear. I got to see her at Kingvention in LA as well, and she is an incredibly genuine person. So I am not surprised to hear that she was teary, and sounds like a powerful moment. But there's a lot more to explore there, of course. We would love to hear her stories.
Oh, absolutely. And I would like to hear a bit more about the LA Kingvention.
Yes.
So who were the other guests and what happened?
Yeah, so this happened last October 2024, and I kind of realized the other day I never really got to talk about it on the show. I think we just didn't really do a news episode around that time, but it was the first time that Kingvention was in LA, in the US at all. In fact, it was kind of a trial run of it, I think, and Pez and Sebastian and that whole team, they really do a lot of work. Again, this is a fan run event. This is not the estate putting this on. And the guests they bring in are absolutely remarkable. So for LA, just to name a few, we had Saida Garrett, Rob Hoffman, Dorian Hawley. Who else was there? Bill Whitfield was signing books, Eddie Garcia, Elise Sankey, Daryl Finnessy, Sundberg Shea, a few others too. There was the whole team behind Moonwalker was there. Nicholas Pike was there. It was great. It was just a one-day event, and I believe they got over 100 people. But this was in downtown LA. These were like very well-known people attending. I wish more people had come. I'll speak a little bit to how it went a bit more in a second, but I hear a lot of complaints like from fans about how much things cost, how much tickets are, blah, blah, blah. But the problem is if we don't go, they're not going to happen again, right? So in this case, I actually did not think the tickets were particularly expensive for an all-day event, and it was a great event and just amazing guests and amazing stories. But I also know it costs a ton of money for Pez and his team to come all the way to LA to do this. And we'll see if they want to do it again. I hope so. But I don't know that they were even able to really cover their expenses. It was still a great event. So the way they did it is they actually had a group of young dancers open the day as well, and which was fun. And then it was several different panels. I think I have to reach back into my memory here, but one of the panels I believe was Rob Hoffman and Nicholas Pike. And then they had Saida, Dorian Hawley, and Daryl Finnessy speaking together. And then they had another was Sundberg Shea, Eddie Garcia, and Elise Sankey talking about Smooth Criminal specifically, which, I will say too, there were a lot of references to Vincent Patterson, and unfortunately Vincent was not there, which was a bummer, but a lot of great stories. I think what's really special too is seeing these guests in kind of group settings. They're all sitting on like a couch together, talking about their memories and stories. And because they all go back with each other so far and had these really crucial experiences together, the energy that kind of bounces between them, I think is maybe one of the most special parts for me, is seeing them, get excited, get emotional. You realize how much resonance these experiences still have for these people who are all, have become really incredible, very well-known artists and creators, icons in their own right. But these moments that hold them together via, in this case, Michael Jackson, you can see how special it still is for all of them. And I think for me, watching as, outsider, seeing them interact with each other is perhaps one of the most moving parts of the whole experience. In terms of what else they had at the LA event, they had merch. Like I said, Bill Whitfield was there, who I got to speak to a little bit. If you haven't checked out our Bill Whitfield episode from way back, please sure to check that one out. I finally got a hard copy of his book signed, which was awesome. They also had a lot of memorabilia, Michael Jackson items, loafers, a hat, his monkey puppet, all these kind of cool items on display. And then the majority of the day was the panels. And then they had a dance party at night, which was fun. It was really, really great to see my kind of SoCal fan friends come. I just very much hope that they will come back to LA, because I think a lot of more people need to come to this and enjoy this. And we're going to lose it if people don't attend. So please, please get out there and support these things if you want them to keep happening, guys, because they are worthwhile. And the estate is not going to do them, at least anytime in the near future.
Yeah, as I said earlier, I think Kingvention, when you compare it to the event that goes on in Vegas that's organized by the estate, there's actually no comparison, and Kingvention are doing it better.
Mm-hmm.
And I would echo what you are saying also about the ticket prices versus the amount of work that goes into putting the events on. And people make that criticism all the time of Brad Sundberg.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that, in the current economy, it may be difficult to justify spending, over £100 on a ticket to an MJ event, for example. But when people accuse them of price gouging, I'm like, okay, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you book a flight to the other side of the world and book yourself a hotel and pay to ship a bunch of really heavy and expensive equipment with you and see how you get on and how much you think you would have to charge for a ticket to recoup everything you've spent. Because I would not be surprised if Brad makes a loss on some of his events.
Oh, sure he does.
Yeah. So, people whinging about the ticket prices, it's ridiculous, really, I think. It reminds me of people that complain about the price of a newspaper, and it's like, okay, well, I'll tell you what, you go and do all the fucking reporting then, and see how many man hours it takes to put together a newspaper and how much you think that costs in staff time, and then come back to me and tell me how £1 for a newspaper is too expensive, you twat. So yeah, I echo your sentiments on that front entirely. I thought Pez and Sebastian and the team did a fantastic job, actually, of organizing quite a complex event. I'm sure that hiring Conway Hall is not cheap.
Mm-hmm.
I am sure that some of the stuff that they were able to put together was not cheap. I mean, they had an exhibition of history era photographs, which were blown up to must have been at least 10 feet high. They were massive. And they were kind of hanging from the ceiling and draped all over the walls. The cost of that alone must have been exorbitant. They had a cool little exhibition where you could watch Michael's videos that had somehow been converted into 3D. I don't know who did that or how they did that, but that was impressive. I thought the whole thing was very well done. Mm-hmm. And the fact that it's being put together almost kind of as a hobby by fans is just incredible, really.
Yeah, it really is. It just makes my head explode just thinking of all the logistics it takes to put this stuff together. So, grateful to have it, because again, the estate is not inviting these people to come tell their stories, which is ridiculous. So go to the place where it's happening, and try to support these things where you can. Now at the London event, also, it looked like there were a lot of MJ content creators who attended. I don't know if you kind of ran into, of which you are one, Charlie, in addition to everything else you do. But it seemed like quite a lot of people who I know run YouTube channels and things like that had actually trekked out to London for this event from the US, for example, which was interesting to see. So they not only are getting great speakers, but they are really becoming, I think, a hub for the fan community as well.
Sorry, who from the US was there?
I think Red Jackson, I believe he's the name. He goes by the really young YouTuber who's doing, by the way, if you're listening to this, dude, you do excellent interviews. We've been so impressed with you. So keep doing what you're doing. I saw him. I can't remember off the top of my head who else I saw, but I was just glancing at some photos.
I didn't see him, so I apologize. I clearly didn't have my eyes open wide enough.
That is okay. But my point is, though, that the whole, I mean, this is not a surprise. Like MJ Vibe is also, I would say, a major hub of the fan community. Pez and his team really, and Sebastian really know how to reach out to the community in impressive ways. So it's, keep doing what you're doing, guys. Cool. Anything else to say on that front, Charlie, that we didn't cover?
Yes, I also met Richard and his wife. So hello to Richard and his wife. I know that I met other people, but it's nearly midnight and I'm drawing a bit of a blank. But hello to everyone anyway. And sorry, Laura, I did mean to say hi. I did mean to come and find you in the convention hall, but I had to get out of that merch room because I thought I was going to faint. Because the weather forecast said it was going to absolutely piss down rain all day. So I went to Kingvention with a big coat on. And of course, it did not rain and was brilliantly sunny. And when I got to Kingvention, it was like a sauna anyway in the merch room. I mean, even people with T-shirts on were perspiring. And I had this huge coat on and I just had to get out of there because I felt like I was in prison. So, sorry, Laura. And I'll see you at the next one.
Yes. Well, I need to get out there to London one of these days to go to the full event. And I really do hope it comes back to LA as well. So, keep your eyes and ears open to whatever they announce. We'll see. I don't know if it would, I mean, LA is really makes sense for them to do it there, but I'm curious what kind of reception they would get, like in New York or somewhere, as opposed to LA. They could probably get the most guests the easiest in LA, though.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you had a lot of guests, actually.
Oh, there were a lot, yeah. And they were really just like hanging around. I mean, not all of them, but quite a few of them were really stuck around to listen to other speakers and just to kind of be there. So you had fairly open access to getting to talk to them as well. And everyone was they were all so nice and welcoming and clearly there for, the love of Michael Jackson and just really wanting to help contribute to remembering him and his legacy. And that was pretty cool. I just feel like anytime I go to fan events these last several years, it really is just so wonderful because there's some there's some politics sometimes you have to deal with and all this stuff. But at the core of it is this just beautiful energy and positivity and love that is the thing I think that keeps me going in spite of, momentary dramas here and there. Seeing old friends I only get to see, once a year, all that stuff. It really counts for a lot. And it's a beautiful thing when it's working. So it's nice. And and that actually, I think, Charlie, the last time you and I saw each other, was that at Thriller Night? It was a while ago.
I think it was actually. Yeah, I think I can't remember if I saw you after Thriller Night, but I definitely saw you at Mel's Drive-In.
Yes.
And then I think that was pre-Havenhurst.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I last saw you then.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to our next meetup.
Yes, that will be good.
So I think that's a wrap. Lots of developments all over the place. I think we have to see how things are going to play out over this summer. Hopefully we'll get some official announcements that are real so we can really understand this whole biopic thing and what's going to happen with that. But otherwise, this was really, really great to have a little time with you, Charlie. Thank you so much for your stories and insights. And it's always just such a pleasure to chat with you.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to chat with you. It's nice to be on a news episode and to have some actual news to discuss, albeit much of it was not the news we would wish for.
That's true. That is true. But it was kind of good. I feel like the news had kind of slowed down a tiny bit, but then we've been getting this big wave lately. So hopefully more to come as news ramps up with the biopic and maybe some good news, hopefully, that will give us hope for that. But otherwise, Charlie, I wish you a great summer. And I am thinking of all of our listeners, and thank you guys for continuing to tune in. We have some great stuff coming. We've already recorded another episode that will be dropping soon as well. And we're looking ahead to the second half of this season. I have lots of plans. We have several episodes in the works. I think you guys are going to love it. So thank you guys again. And I will now sign off. This is Elise. Stay bad.
See you later.
See you later. Bye, guys. Till the next time. Take care.